السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Inshallah ta'ala, we are going to cover today the 7th juz in our After Isha Tafsir series. This 7th juz is divided on 2 surahs. One surah is ending here in the first quarter of this juz. That is Surah Al-Ma'idah. And the 3/4 of the remaining of the juz covers Surah Al-An'am, some portion of Surah Al-An'am. So today I like to keep the focus on Surah Al-An'am, that whatever portion is in 7th juz. What is interesting about this surah, Surah Al-An'am, that it is one from the As-Sab' Al-Tiwal, and longest surahs. This is 6th surah in sequence from the beginning of the Al-Mus'haf. Surah Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Imran, Surah Al-Nisa, Surah Al-Ma'idah, and then Surah Al-An'am. Every surah from Al-Baqarah to Al-Ma'idah is Madani surah. And today, it is first time that we are dealing with Makki surah. This is a big surah. It has 165 verses. And when you look at the size of the verses, you do not find much difference between this surah and the surahs that we just passed, Madani surahs. We find the ayat here are about same in size. Normally, we find the verses in Madani surahs are longer, and in Makki surahs are shorter. But that is the general perception. That is not always the case. Like in this surah, Surah Al-An'am, the verses are not short, but they are too long. What is the reason? One of the reasons is the time period when this surah came down. This surah came down towards the end of Meccan phase. And the Mufassirin mention that this surah, despite the fact that it is one of the largest surahs in the Quran, it came down all at one time. And Mufassirin wrote that the Sahaba, Ridwanullahi Majma'in, recorded the entire surah the same night. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anh mentions that the Sahaba wrote down this surah the same night. And then Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentioned that so many angels came down with this surah that they covered the horizon. And the reason was the honor that this surah um, given, or why so many angels came down with this surah, was because the content of this surah. Unlike the Madani surah, Makki surah majorly focuses on the topics of Allah, His that, His person, His sifat, His attributes, His power, His majesty, His control over everything. Also, the ma'ad, that is life after death. Ba'ath, ba'd al-maut, that is raising from the graves. And the risala, that is messengerhood. Those are the central topics in Makki surahs. And in the sequence of the recitation of the Quran, I just mentioned that this is the very first Makki surah if we do not look for a moment at Surah Al-Fatiha. Because Surah Al-Fatiha too is Makki surah. But this surah has amazing status. When we come upon Surah Al-Fatiha, more than we talk that it is Makki or Madani, we talk so many other things. This surah amazes us. This surah engages our mind, our thoughts, and our ability to comprehend whatever this surah offers. So we seldom talk about Surah Al-Fatiha, whether it is Makki or Madani, because there are a lot more to talk about. We found somewhere about Surah Al-Fatiha, وَلَقَدْ آتَيْنَاكَ سَبْعًا مِنَ الْمَثَانِي وَالْقُرْآنَ الْعَظِيمِ, that we have honored you with 7 overly repeated verses, a surah of 7 verses that repeated again and again, and a great Quran. Yani Surah Al-Fatiha in itself is a Quran. So if we do not look at Surah Al-Fatiha and we start the count from Al-Baqarah, then Al-An'am is the first Makki surah. So subject topic here is Allah Azza wa Jal, His authority, His attributes, His works, and other related topics that I just mentioned. What you do not find here is what you find in Madani Surah, and that is the ahkam, functions, that you will not find in this surah. But the argument with the mushrikeen is decisive, authoritative, and absolute. It is one of the powerful surah on the topics of Tawheed, on the topics of Ma'ad. It was for this reason, perhaps, so many angels came with this surah. The surah starts with Alhamd. There are about 6 more surahs, like Surah Al-Fatiha too. It starts with Alhamd. And Surah Al-Fatir, that starts with Alhamd. So this is that surah that starts with a praise to Allah Azza wa Jal. And the word itself requires that we take a pause and look at the word choice here. Or everything praises Allah Azza wa Jal. What word is chosen here is Alhamd. All praises are due to Allah Azza wa Jal. That is, whether we praise Allah or not, whether humankind takes the opportunity to praise Allah Azza wa Jal or not, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of perfection and beauty, that He is self-praised. So Alhamd, that word choice is here. All praises is to Allah Azza wa Jal, الذي خلق السماوات والأرض وجعل الظلمات والنور, who created the heavens and the earth. Why then Allah not be praiseworthy, whose work is the creation of the universe, which contains heavens and earth. وَجَعَلَ الظُّلُمَاتِ وَالنُّورِ, and Allah has created the darkness and the light. For the heavens and earth, Allah chose the word khalaqa, is used for the creation of material things. Tangible things. And then for the darkness and the light, Allah chose the word ja'ala, also for the meaning of creation. Here, something that is not tangible, the light and the darkness. ثم الذين كفروا بربهم يعدلون. ثم, يعني even though that Allah is such that He created the heavens and earth, even though He made the darkness and the light, look at the disbelievers. They still equate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what is left open here or undisclosed is, what do they equate with Allah? Themselves or others? One possibility, they equate themselves to Allah. Yani, they equal themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once they think they are in control of everything. They are in control of the provision. They are in control of the future. They are in control of the upcoming things. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the absolute authority over everything. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ. Down in this later in this surah, we find a powerful ayah that teaches us about Allah Azza wa Jal. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. That is verse can't read the number of the verse, too small here, but I can read the ayah to you. وَعِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. It is Allah who holds the keys to the unseen. Those treasures, nobody knows but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Unseen, right? Like tomorrow. What is tomorrow holding for me? I do not know. The future, what is holding for me and for you? We do not know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unfold the future upon us. May it be good, may it be bad, may it be favorable or unfavorable, maybe sweet, maybe bitter, maybe achieving for us, or defeating for us, whatever the case may be. We do not know, we do not have the access to what is far from our sight, our sense. So لا يعلمها إلا هو ويعلم ما في البر والبحر. It is Allah who knows whatever is in the land and in the water. And no leaf from the tree falls except Allah has the knowledge of it. And there's no seed in the darkness of the, it is recorded in a clear book, the book of record, Allah Azza wa Jal. Such is Allah Azza wa Jal. How can we then equate ourselves with Allah Azza wa Jal? With what authority? Or if we take the second meaning, they equate others, and others reference to gods, so-called gods. Yani, after knowing who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after seeing Allah's work, the whole universe in front of us, how they be so ignorant that they equate fake gods with Allah Azza wa Jal. So you could see from the beginning of the surah, the subject topic is to have dialogue with disbelievers, a divine dialogue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings all the doubts in the minds of the mushrikeen and polytheists and those who did not make the efforts to build a relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. Even when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam made a prophetic effort to invite them to Allah with wisdom, with knowledge, through wahi, even then they turn away. Why they turn away? What was the plight? It was the environment in which they grew. They grew in the environment of idol worshipping. And from young age, idol worshipping was dominant on their perception. For that reason, they weren't able to see at first the flaw in their perception, in their so-called philosophy, right? They did not see. For example, if you enter in the room and you see the rug is let down slanted, you will spot it right away because you are not part from that environment. You will spot this strange thing right away. And if you don't have permission to fix it, you definitely would have the power to notice it and feel uncomfortable. Would you not? But if you are the one who lived in this room, or you're the one who put the carpet in this order, or somebody else put it and is being there for a long time, then the visitor notice it what you do not notice, the flaw, the defect, the poor choice of organizing the things in your room. That was the plight for the people of Mecca, the mushrikeen. They were not seeing something which was obvious. And what was it? They were not able to see that these idols that they are making by their own hands, they are crafting, they are giving them shape, they are painting them, they are putting them under the sun so they dry up, right? And then they start worshipping them. Oftentimes, they make the idol figure, right, from their food, such as dates if they go to long journey and they think that carrying an idol will be extra hassle, right? To carry an idol with them. And they needed the idol every time, just like man, he needs Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with him every time. We need Allah Azza wa Jal every time. وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He's with you wherever you may be. So we need our Creator, our benefactor with us. And this much they also knew. But the problem was they were connecting themselves with idols, lifeless objects, which they create by their own hands. So oftentimes they take the dates, like fresh dates, and smash them until they become like a dough, and make them a idol figure, and then carry them. And during the time of rest, they pull it out and bow before it. And after a little bit more of time, they feel hungry and they break it and eat it. So all of these strange things were not bothersome to them. So when Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam caught them, with this dumbness, I don't see the simplicity is more than worse than simplicity. With stupidity, when he struck them, right, and through the ayat from the Quran, they weren't able to see where he was standing. He was standing unable to see their counterpart, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, at once, unless they lift themselves a little bit. So it always required a little effort, a little work on their part. Some people did it, and so they were able to pull themselves up from the abysses. And others, they didn't make any efforts. They were demanding miracles, right? They said that if all you brought is the truth, then I should see in my bedroom. I should see in the middle of my room. If you are really a prophet, other prophets came before you, right? And they had different miracles, such as Saleh. He had naqa. هذه ناقة الله لكم آية فذروها تأكل في أرض الله. Allah says, this is the naqa. Then leave it alone and leave it graze in the free pasture. Do not bug it, do not disturb it, do not obstruct it, right? So this is the naqa of Salih alayhi salatu wasalam. She was a miracle. She came from the belly of the mountain, and it was so huge, so bulky, that many camels could be made out of it in terms of the shape and size. When it would approach the herds of camels, they start running in fear, screaming from the naqa. Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, he would throw his staff on the ground and it would turn to a snake. And he would put his hand under the arm inside the shirt and pull it out, and it would glow like sun. And Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took the manifestation of miracles, right, to the utmost height at the time of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. His miracles, which were not the ilmi miracles, which were not academic, like in the case of Quran, those miracles were physiological. So Isa alayhi salatu wasalam's miracle were like the high end. And before him, other Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam also had physiological miracles. What I mean by that you can see something with your eyes, you can taste it, you can touch it, you can feel it. That's what I meant. Like Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring down the table spread containing varieties of food, and the food came down and they ate from it. And so many other miracles. So they said to Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam that if you are a prophet, we would have no difficulty to accept you as a prophet if you bring us the miracles. And they gave the list even. They gave the list that you can find in Surah Bani Israel, that Muhammad, we see mountains, in Mecca, all directions, all sides. They block really our horizon. Would you flatten these mountains and make the whole Mecca, right, a flat land, so we can see east and west and north and south without any obstruction? Do this. Or would you have a river traversing through the desert of Mecca or dry land of Mecca? Would you turn the sands of Mecca into fertile land, and the trees and the shades and the fruits? These are few choices, whichever you like to pick. If you do this, we will accept you as a prophet from Allah. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam definitely wanted to help these people out. He wanted that these people have faith in Allah Azza wa Jal. They accept Islam as a religion. The miracle this time will be Al-Quran Al-Kareem. Academic. You have to read. You have to bend yourself over it, and you find the truth in it. For people before you were given enough such miracles that you are demanding today. And the result was that they denied. If we bring, Quran says here in the first page, وَلَوْ نَزَّلْنَا عَلَيْكَ كِتَابًا فِي قِرْطَاسٍ, unto you, O Muhammad, a book, right, in a ledger, right, in a like a notebook, a mushaf, such that they can touch it by their hands. The disbelievers will say that Muhammad had casted magic upon us. It is a pure magic, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that He will keep Quran a sufficient miracle, an absolute miracle, a timeless miracle. Whereas the other miracles, they were there until prophets were there, or sometimes they even ended in a day or two, or weeks or two, weeks or few weeks. But Quran is a miracle that Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam even departed this temporary world, but this world, but this miracle remains with us. So this surah is a surah that majorly speaks about Allah Azza wa Jal, His um, attributes, His power, His authority, and the ma'ad, that is our return to Allah Azza wa Jal, after life, right? And all other things which are yet invisible to us or unseen to us. This surah plentifully speaks on those topics. Uh, I mentioned yesterday when I was talking about Surah Al Ma'idah that has 120 verses, that there's no way in half an hour time we can talk about the entire surah unless um, you know, we just say that is Madani surah and that these are the number of verses here, or we when we pick one ayah or two um, as subject topic and speak about it. And this is much we can do today in this short amount of time to know what Surah Al-An'am. By the way, it means cattle, because mushrikeen who had the livestock, right? And they made those animals haram upon themselves. The meat haram upon themselves. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Ma'idah, yesterday, surah, that Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la tuharrimu tayyibati ma ahalla Allahu lakum wa la ta'tadu inna Allah la yuhibbul mu'tadin. That believers, O believers, do not make what Allah made pure and halal for yourself prohibited upon yourself. What mushrikeen did, they made what was originally by default pure and permissible prohibited upon themselves. And it was one of the many misguidance that they were involved in. And Islam was in many ways a mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the way was that it was setting up, resetting everything and taking the humankind to the pure and original religion, where only impure things will remain prohibited and pure things will be permissible. So the cattle are pure and permissible. Mushrikeen made some of them in certain situations prohibited upon themselves. So because that detail is given in this surah is called Surah Al-An'am, a magnificent surah in the Quran. We at conclusion ask Allah Azza wa Jal that this small session on this surah be an inspiration for us to come upon this surah and complete the complete learning, our learning of the Surah Al-An'am from the beginning to the end, and we continue our study of the Quran. We do the same with the remaining of the surahs, and I can tell you that our tafsir session throughout Ramadan will remain for 30 to 35 minutes, and during this time we'll never be able to cover any surah, and that never be the aim. The aim is just to get little bit familiarity with any particular surah. So inshallah that will become an inspiration and invite to that surah. So with this I have said, I conclude this session asking Allah Azza wa Jal to accept this session from us and make this a means of our relationship with Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our ibadat during this powerful month, the fasting during the day and Qiyamul Layl or Tarawih during the night. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our dua, our supplications, our sadaqat and charities, and whatever good, to whatever amount we are doing, Allah accepts all of them. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. Whatever good you are doing, Allah is most aware of it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله. جزاكم الله خير الجزاء والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.